All right, the dynamic has flipped. Donald Trump is now that old, exhausted candidate who is getting beat up on the campaign trail, at least according to this MSNBC article that I'd like to read for you in a moment. It details how Donald Trump has done a lot of events over the past 20 days, but with each event, he gets visibly more exhausted, and that has led to him canceling event after event after event. Meanwhile, VP Harris is ramping up her campaign and bringing a unique, contagious energy that we haven't seen since maybe the Obama era. So while yes, Trump has held a lot of campaign events this past week, none of them have quite gone his way. You guys saw the Bloomberg Economic Forum. You guys saw the Chicago Forum that he did. He spoke in Detroit and demeaned Detroit. He rambled about Arnold Palmer's genitalia, and then he scares some children half to death because he can't stop himself from using apocalyptic rhetoric about our country falling, about World War III being close, and you can't use MAGA cult answers to a non-MAGA cult crowd, you know? Like when he went to the Al Smith dinner, he was using MAGA inside jokes to people who weren't quite MAGA, and that's why Jim Gaffigan's wife was like, what is this dude talking about? Barack Hussein Obama? Either way, with 16 days to go, we have no time to waste. Make sure you drop a like, make sure you subscribe. We want to hit that 600K, and let's jump in with this clip of Donald Trump saying, we're going to get you out real fast. Let's watch this game tonight, but there was no game.
So in conclusion, and thank you for being here, everybody. This is beautiful. We'll get you out real fast. We're going to get you to go watch that game tonight, right? We really do appreciate this kind of crowd and love. The love that we've had is...
There was no game that night. That's the entire point. There was no game, and then he said that in an interview after. There's a game tonight. We're going to the game tonight. There is no game. Someone in the reply said, just another open mic night at the nursing home. It's like the open mic night at the nursing home if all of them were insane capitalists trying to sell coins all the time. That's not even the worst of it. This article details how Donald Trump kicked off the same rally by talking about Arnold Palmer's genitalia. And, you know, I could play the clip, but you guys have probably already seen it. Donald Trump's campaign suggested he would begin previewing his closing argument Saturday night with Election Day barely 2 weeks away. Then, he kicked off his campaign with a detailed story about Arnold Palmer, at one point even praising the late legendary golfer's genitalia and telling stories about how Arnold Palmer used to come out of locker rooms. And you know, like, the first thing that I thought of when I heard about that is Trump saying that he used to walk into changing rooms at the beauty pageants to see these prepubescent girls changing. There's a weird parallel there where Donald Trump is kind of just a pervert. Trump was campaigning in Latrobe, Pennsylvania, where Palmer was born and learned to golf from his father. And listen, politicians saluting Palmer is nothing new. Arnold Palmer is a legend. My grandpa is a big fan. Of course I used to drink the Arnold Palmer iced tea all the time, but this is wild. This is wild. When I'm drinking Arnold Palmer's iced tea, I don't want to be thinking about his locker room adventures. Now, this is a clip from MSNBC that I really wanted to show you guys. It's brief, and it details how Donald Trump is now the one who's afraid to leave his safe space. He is now the one who has turned into everything he critiqued Joe Biden as back in 2020. Listen.
It was only 4 years ago that Donald Trump was painting his then opponent, Joe Biden, as a weak-old candidate who was too afraid to leave his basement.
We have a sleepy guy in a basement of a house that the press is giving a free pass to.
We have a guy that doesn't come out of his basement.
Joe Biden is sleeping or whatever he's doing in his basement. He doesn't seem to come out a lot. He's waved a white flag on life. He doesn't leave his basement.
Now the script is flipped. In 2024, Biden is out of the race and Trump is the old, exhausted candidate afraid to leave his safe spaces. According to Politico, an advisor to Trump told producers of the Shade Room podcast that Trump was, quote, exhausted and refusing some interviews, but that could change. Trump's exhaustion was on display this week at a rally last night in Michigan. His microphone cut out 10 minutes into his speech, which prompted him to bizarrely wander the stage for nearly 20 minutes, occasionally talking with technical staff and supporters. It was even more awkward on Monday in Pennsylvania. 2 attendees fainted due to the heat. After the second collapse, Trump made a remark about, wait for it, losing weight. He then paused for a Q&A session with Governor Kristi Noem and shifted to playing music for nearly 40 minutes.
You know, I'm gonna play more of this in a bit. I wanna move on to other stuff in this video, but this kind of highlights a major problem with the Trump world. Because earlier in this video, I laid out a list of crazy things Trump has done in the past 7 days, from the Bloomberg Forum to the Arnold Palmer thing to scaring children, which we will get to, but This MSNBC host just laid out a completely different list that I forgot about. I forgot that he froze on stage and then danced on stage. I mean, obviously I didn't forget, but I forgot that this all happened in the past 7 days. And my broader point is Trump was able to successfully throw so much stuff at the wall and do so much crazy stuff that we begin to forget. Now, before we get into some of these next clips, this article reads, 4 of Trump's most meandering remarks this week. And I mean, Trump has had 192 crazy meandering remarks this week, so this is just the top 4, but it does kind of help what I just said. It's hard to sometimes index all of the crazy things that Trump says in 1 week. And better yet, how am I supposed to remember stuff Trump said 6 months ago, or 12 months ago, or even 3 years ago? Again, there's so much crazy stuff. The former president says that his new style is to weave from one subject to the next. Others see something more worrisome in his ramblings. One of the truisms of the Trump world is that being viewed as boring is a sin more deadly than being wrong. On the campaign trail, former President Trump often takes that to mean he must go off script and veer off message. His critics say such details are a troubling sign of his incoherence and raise questions about his age and cognitive health. And VP Harris have been calling him out for that, saying that he's exhausted, saying that he doesn't make sense, and she's not pulling punches. Also, her speaking style is way more effective than President Biden's at this moment. There was a while back where President Biden was campaigning and none of his punches were landing in quite the way I wanted them to. Basically, Trump is the easiest person on the planet to punch in a metaphorical sense. Say, hey, this guy is a whiny baby, and President Biden couldn't do it. Kamala has been successfully saying this dude is struggling. His age, his cognitive health, he is struggling. Also, those weren't attacks that Biden could even use for obvious reasons. I also want to say shout out to VP Harris. It is her birthday. Happy birthday, VP Harris. I'm wearing my Kamala for President, say it to my face shirt. 15% off on my website if you use code Mockler. But back to this video. So, school children asked him about boyhood heroes. He ended up on the border wall. It was a softball question. Beyond a softball question, it was a T-ball question from a 10-year-old. Mr. Trump's response was more of a knuckleball. I want to read this and I want to play the clip. A group of children asked Mr. Trump questions on Friday on Fox and Friends. Asked to name his favorite president when he was a child, Mr. Trump at first cited one who was elected when he was 34, Ronald Reagan. This is hilarious. Then he ventured onto surprising terrain, including every child's favorite subject, the revised NAFTA trade deal known as the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement. I just want to read you guys a quick excerpt from this. Just listen up. Daniel says, President Trump, I'm Daniel, and I'm 10, and I'm from Tennessee. What was your favorite president when you were little? I would immediately say, Daniel, stop calling him President Trump, you little shit. I'm totally joking, but Trump said, so I liked Ronald Reagan. I thought he was, look, I did not love his trade policy. I'm a very good trade. I've made some great trade deals for us. The USMCA, that wasn't his strength, but he had great dignity about him. Ronald Reagan, you could say, there's our president, more than any of the others. Really, any of the others. Wait, what? Ronald Reagan, you could say, there's our president, more than any of the others. You could say that. You could say, really, any of the others. Great presidents. Well, Lincoln was probably a great president, although I've always said, why wasn't that settled? You know, I'm a guy that it doesn't make sense we had a civil war. Kilmeade then says, well, half the country left before he got there. Trump then says, yeah, but you almost say, like, why wasn't that, as an example, Ukraine would have never happened, and Russia if I were president. This is beyond weaving. This is actual dementia. I don't want to armchair diagnose somebody, but the way he's speaking is insane, and I'm reading it out because it's important to hear it read aloud. We can now watch the video of this 10-year-old asking Trump the question.
And I'm from Tennessee. What was your favorite president when you were little?
Who was your favorite president when you were little?
So I liked Ronald Reagan. I thought he was, look, I didn't love his trade policy. I'm a very good trade. I've made some great trade deals for us, the USMCA. That wasn't his strength, but he had a great dignity about him, Ronald Reagan. Mm-hmm. You could say, there's our president, more than any others, really any of the others. Great presidents, well, Lincoln was probably a great president, although I've always said, why wasn't that settled? You know, I'm a guy that, it doesn't make sense. We had a civil war.
Well, half the country left before he got there.
Yeah, but you'd almost say, like, why wasn't that? As an example, Ukraine would have never happened in Russia.
How does he get to Ukraine? Number one, but Ryan Godfrey said, the Lincoln thing is embarrassing. But also, the question was, what was your favorite president when you were little? And the first answer is a president who was inaugurated when he was 34. I hate to say it, but Trump still had the mind of a child when he was 34, so maybe he did give a decent answer. I want to quickly click on Trump's Truth Social Live just to see what he's been posting. I haven't checked this. He posted a clip from The View that looks like it was recorded off of a TV from a phone. He posted Kamala's agenda. I'm not even going to play his advertisements. Posted stuff from his own rallies, Latrobe, Pennsylvania. So he's been too busy to post, it seems like, over the past 24 hours. I want to play you another clip of a kid asking Trump, what's your favorite farm animal? And he gives an answer that would terrify any little child.
What's your favorite farm animal?
Favorite farm animal?
What's the animal?
Well, this guy grew up in the city.
I'll tell you what I love. I love cows. But if we go with Kamala, you won't have any cows anymore because you're not allowed. I don't want to ruin this kid's day. But I love cows. I think they're so cute and so beautiful and so productive. But according to Kamala, who's a radical left lunatic, you will not have any cows anymore.
I said this last time, but Trump loves cows so much, he thinks they're so cute that he consumes McDonald's every day. And that's not a joke about his weight. That's a joke about the environment and consuming a massive amount of meat. I was a vegetarian for a few years back, but now I am not. Trump doesn't care about cows or the environment. I love the caption that Kamala HQ, the rapid response team for the Harris campaign, said. They said, child, what's your favorite farm animal? Trump, if we go with Kamala, we won't have cows anymore. You will not have cows anymore. They then put multiple question marks, like, what the hell is this dude even saying? And in this clip, Donald Trump says, just minutes later, that he will defund public schools. And the reason this is crazy is because he was just answering questions from kids in an attempt to appeal to a younger audience, or an attempt to show that he's like a grandpa type figure, that he can be friendly or a role model for kids, which is not true. But then he says in the next breath, in the next minute, that he wants to defund public schools if they don't obey him as president. And there is a lot wrong with this clip. Let me play it first.
It's not anything to do with school choice, also. Okay. But also, separate from school choice, we're going to take the Department of Education, close it. I'm going to close it. We'll have one person, could be you if you decide to retire.
Okay, Mr. President, here's what bothers me.
Central casting.
Here's what bothers me about that. So let's say you have a liberal city, let's Los Angeles, San Diego, and they just decide we're going to get rid of that history. We got new history. This is America built off the backs of slaves on stolen land. And that curriculum comes in.
Then we don't send them money. We would save half.
Okay, there is so much wrong with this. First of all, I always talk about the consequences of defunding the Department of Education or eliminating the Department of Education. It would increase wealth inequality because certain schools wouldn't have access to updated curriculum, updated technology. Teachers would have salary cuts. They would oftentimes be laid off if you don't have a centralized Department of Education to help that stuff out. There would be no education standards or requirements. So as Kilmeade says, different states could teach whatever they want. And the crazy part is, Kilmeade says, what if they start teaching some new fake history like America was built off the back of slavery? Man, that is history. That is the real history of America. And the fact that you have your head buried in the sand like that is probably why Kilmeade's on Fox News. Here's Donald Trump again making a mistake, not even knowing what day the game is.
And I hope they can watch my rally. It'll be on the various stations, but watch it. What time will that be, gentlemen? Today, about what time? 6 o'clock. It'll be 6 o'clock. We'll be in Pennsylvania, and we're going to have a good time. And then I'm going to go watch a football game, also in Pennsylvania.
All right, so here's the thing. I think if a presidential candidate in 2004 asked his advisor what time something was, it wouldn't be a big deal. But if a presidential candidate in 2004 repeatedly swapped the names of different people like Nancy Pelosi and Nikki Haley, repeatedly talked about 4 different topics at once while swaying around, while spitting and drooling on himself, while falling asleep at events, if a candidate did all of these things and then forgot times of where he was going, what he was doing multiple times, didn't even know what day the game was, that would be campaign ending. Think about Howard Dean in 2004. He screamed, and that would be campaign ending. My broad point is, this isn't a one-time thing with Donald Trump. This is a repeated pattern, and the fact that it's been normalized is wild. If a candidate in 2004 had this repeated pattern of cognitive decline, it would be game over. The game never even would have begun in the first place. Here's a tired and exhausted Donald Trump, for example, just getting distracted mid-sentence. He's supposed to be talking about something the American people care about, like the economy or something like that, but he's talking about his own hair.
People running, 22 Democrats, they're running. Oh, I'm looking at my hair up there. Let's see. Oh, I don't like it. I don't like it. Excuse me, I'm going to recomb my hair. Do you mind?
He's talking about his hair. Man, I feel bad for these people sometimes. You know, I've been to so many MAGA rallies, and like looking at these people in the back over to the right. Now, I'm going to use you guys as a little therapy session. I have very conflicted feelings. I don't know how to feel about Trump supporters sometimes, and let me know how you feel. So I've been to so many Trump rallies, of course, 30 Trump rallies. And when I look at these two people in the back, I would be willing to bet. Maybe I just like to see the best in people, but I would be willing to bet that these are two nice human beings. If I were to go up to them at a rally, I bet you they'd be willing to talk to me. They'd probably treat me like I was their son in a way. People are always very nice to me. Someone gave me gloves off of their hands one time because they saw that I was shaking. They were like, don't worry about it, buddy. So these are probably nice people, but at the same time, they're standing behind Donald Trump, listening to him ramble about immigration, listening to him ramble about deporting 15 million people. But I bet that these people have real problems in their lives. Yeah, things are more expensive. Yeah, people have some economic anxiety. I bet you these people have real concerns in their lives, but the reason I feel bad is because they've been sucked up into this movement where they're sitting here listening to Donald Trump yap about his hair. These are people who think they found a home in some sort of political movement. Sometimes I have this struggle in my head. Do I feel bad for Trump supporters? Which I do. A lot of them are misled. Or do I say, you guys are digging your own grave? I mean, if you vote for the leopards eating face party and then your face gets eaten by a leopard, I don't feel bad. But yeah, it's complicated. There was a video I released a few months back where a Trump supporter said she just needs healthcare for her autistic son and she can't afford it. I said, do you think the government should be able to provide that healthcare? She said, yeah, that would be helpful. I said, the Democrats want to do that. She said, that's evil socialism. So that's a good person who's very, very misled by a bad person like Donald Trump. I'll end the video off on that. If you appreciate what I do, drop a like, subscribe, have a great rest of your day, and peace out.